Namaskar and welcome to DGI with Sri and Sri. Today is the 24th of August, Tuesday, and this is episode number 231. Here are the main points. Joe Biden walks away from questions about the thousands of Americans still stranded in Afghanistan. Shooting incidents reported at the airport, Kabul airport. Bennett to tell Biden that Iran enrichment makes nuclear deal irrelevant. Let's start with global news. Global headlines dominated by Afghan and COVID issues. The US update on Afghanistan is as follows. We already mentioned this. Sridharji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar, good morning to everybody and good evening in India. We're looking forward to another exciting day.
Sir, we'll start with why Biden abandoned the Trump pullout plan. What is it that he failed to do that was mandated in the plan that was agreed to under the Trump administration, sir?
Well, I think the first and foremost as to why he did not follow through with the plan. The answers are very, what I can call, very skeptical because Biden has not given any clear answer to any of the questions, including the plan, including why he avoided the advice that was given to him by his own people, intelligence, etc. He has not answered any of those questions. You have seen through his press interviews, his own perspectives on Afghanistan, including Taliban, which is vastly different from on-ground realities. As far as what we hear about Mr. President Trump's plan was secure, safe passage for all allies and all personnel of allies and all relatives and people who are in Afghanistan, not just from the United States, but all of allies. And anything that is done to alter that would be met with, very disproportionate set of actions by the allies. And his own, three-step plan was first and foremost, personal, people, families. That's the first that come out. The second that comes out is the equipment. All the equipment that is given by United States would come out. That's number two. Number three, final, is the armed forces, the men. So therefore, that's his priority. That was his prioritized sequence. Whether it was actually documented, given, etc., I don't know. But what we do know is that is what they have been advocating, and that is what Trump's plan is. But one thing is very clear. Trump was very clear that safety and security of personnel was absolute and of paramount importance.
And I think there was a warning that Trump had given saying that even if you touch one of these people, then we will go back and continue. There was some clause that really made the Taliban be wary of doing anything, any kind of mischief. This is what I'm reading from various reports that are coming out. Viewers, there are a lot of people who have served time in Afghanistan, whether it is United States or United Kingdom. They've all come out and voiced their concerns. Some of the things that I'm hearing are absolutely shocking. That it is not 300,000. The number was much lesser because the money was eaten away by the politicians at the top. They were just making up names, but they were not 300,000. So even assume that 1/3 was bad, they still had 200,000 troops. And then somebody is saying that no, only 30,000 in that was like commando fit ready, what they would call as somebody equivalent to an American army person or a Western army person trained in that skill set, responses and all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming out right now, but the underlying theme that all of them are saying is that the United States has been lying all along about the readiness of the troops of the Afghans, and that is one of the reasons why Taliban was able to run over so quickly. Now, what also is coming out is that the White House staff was afraid to tell Biden and Jake Sullivan that they were wrong. This is really surprising, sir. It is their job to tell their bosses when they are going wrong. What is it that's going on in the White House, sir?
I have no idea. I'm as much puzzled as anybody. So apparently, all this truth is coming out right now. Effectively, they had intelligence, and which they ignored. They had a recommendation, which the White House ignored. And also, it is very strange that this memo of June 10th, 11th, when they were attempting to amend, guaranteed protection of Americans stranded overseas and why they were trying to abdicate. It all seems rather vague and coincidental. The only person who can answer this question is President Biden, and he has refused to entertain any questions. Even yesterday in the press interview, which was prominently, that photograph was featured, when they were trying to ask him questions, he turned his back and walked away. So that just tells you where we are with regard to the answers for the questions that you're seeking. Just I want to say one thing before the Trump was very, you will be met with disproportionate force and you will not know what hit you. This is what he has been kind of lambasting right around. But the words may have been different to what he is speaking, but it's been very clear. The same thing was done even in Syria, that United States will act with disproportionate force.
And Jake Sullivan falsely claims that Biden warned Americans and that Afghan withdrawal would be difficult. Now, this is all after the fact. People are talking as if Biden had warned. And you also mentioned that he walked away from questions about thousands of Americans still stranded. We don't even know how many Americans are still stranded in Afghanistan. Although now reports are coming in that they are being allowed. There is better access to the airport from outside, that people are being allowed. But the question that is uppermost in people's mind is, the US Army knew when it was leaving. Then why did it not tell its own citizens that first you guys have to leave, only then we can leave? Why did they keep that part a secret? Nobody's answering this question. Now, Sridharji, can you tell us the amount, or just an idea of the amount of captured weaponry that is in the hands of Taliban?
Yes, let me read out. It's difficult to read. Okay, more than 28 billion was spent equipping the Afghans between 2002 to 2017. Okay, 28 billion. The Heritage Foundation wrote. This is from the Heritage Foundation. Expenditures after that are harder to come by since deliveries were continuing until last month. So we're talking about 2017. So this could be, significant number in the last 4 years. As of June 30th, 2021, what we have is they have 211 US supplied aircraft in their inventory. They also have 600,000 rifles, machine guns, 76,000 vehicles, such as high mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, armored trucks, pickups, radios, night vision goggles, drones, and 208 helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. So effectively, they have an army and an air force. When you look at this inventory, the inventory is greater than what probably many countries around that region have. It's probably certainly greater than Australia, greater than Singapore, greater than Vietnam, greater than some of the countries. I don't even know what this kind of, armory or cache is available even with Pakistan, for that matter, the neighbors. So it is astonishing that this has been left behind. So which I have asked the question, which is namely, or posed the question, or posing the question, is this deliberate? It seems like, it's not like, you're leaving two toys behind, or you're leaving some, few things you've forgotten. This is, astonishing number. And how Pentagon can keep quiet that you are handing over to an administration which attacked United States, and you went there to disarm them and take the bad boys out, and you leave this and come back. There is, and you may making, you just mentioned the number. It's not 200,000. It may be 20,000, 30,000. So there is this is unreal from the perspective of what you see by way of what is being now made public.
Vice President Kamala Harris focused on Afghan evacuation as she addresses ASEAN leaders, I should say. And in further trouble to Biden, the Pentagon may request Biden to stay beyond August 31st, but will not retake Bagram Air Base. I'm not sure this is an option, sir. Personally, I think they will have to take back on Bagram Air Base unless US is planning on bombing and strafing its own built airfields, its own aircraft, its own helicopters, because if these things fall in the wrong hands, it's going to be a disaster in that area. Your thoughts, sir?
The way I look at it is, they have to do something very similar to liberation of Kuwait, if you recall.
Yes, yes.
Saddam Hussein had all these people lined up in various factories and various places. You say you bomb, we got all this stuff. The difference here is that you can't bomb. They have got so many things. They got drones, they got planes, they got helicopters, they got all this machinery. So I don't know. I think that what the Pentagon or the defense, U.S. defense forces are saying is that, you have to declare formal war. You can't kind of allow us to go and do random things without giving an explicit authority to act. Otherwise, we'll become persecutable, and there is no immunity. So you have to pass a resolution, and you have to give an explicit authorization. This is not a covert operation that one can carry out when you look at what has been left behind, sir, and the number of people.
And now Taliban is threatening Biden no extension beyond August 31st. It is the red line. The consequences will be severe. Now, let's take one small perspective before I let Sridharji to answer. You see, since 2014, that is for the past 7 years, neither the United States nor the EU forces, they were not in combat mode. In other words, for the last 7 years, they were just embedded in the Afghan forces, and it was the Afghan forces that was keeping the Taliban in check. In fact, in the last 18 months, not a single United States soldier has died. I'm not saying this to say a point. I'm just trying to say that they have been very effective in keeping the Taliban confined to wherever it is that they were confined to. Now, what is happening is they in turn are telling the United States, you better leave on the 31st of August. How can US leaving its own citizens behind? This is just no way that's going to be possible. But it tells you that the world has stopped respecting the United States. This is how I see it. Sridharji, your thoughts?
No, I think that your summary conclusion is spot on. There is no trust. Even the just concluded or concluding the news snippets that are coming out of the G7 meeting, there's a lot of astonishment, as well as what you can a feeling of disgust as to how this could happen when United States was leading front and center and supposed to carry the allies with it. How such a deal could have been constructed, and how one is playing out this what you call the exit strategy. I think there are no words to explain. Even there's no disrespect. The first tranche of 37,000 or 27,000 people, 37,000 people who have come out. 2,500 are American citizens. It looks like anybody who made it to the Bagram airport and wanted a seat in the plane have been accommodated into the flight, and then they were flown to different locations. This is also posing a security threat because there was no processing. Nothing was done at the airport, so all the processing need to happen in the appropriate venues, whether it is in Fort Bliss or whether it is in Doha, or whether it is in Uzbekistan, whether it is in Germany, needs to happen. So I think, Sriji, many questions that you are raising from a logical point of view have no answers, and we're not getting anything straight. And you can see there is inconsistencies between the Defense Department briefings, the State Department briefings, and to complete and total silence from the president, and nobody within his own advisory group or even vice president is responding to any of these questions. And he didn't want to talk anything about the evacuation plan or what the strategy was, even in Asia. So I don't know how we are going to, uncover the answers and what the true issues are. And what still really concerns people in the United States is these fellows wanted everybody to get out by September 11th. Okay, everybody knows, what September 11th is. So that's why they're not extending. They don't want anybody in the country. So what is confronting the world, and what these guys want to show on that September 11th, either in Afghanistan or elsewhere, remains a mystery.
Yes, indeed. And remember, viewers, about 3, 4 months ago, when Joe Biden picked this unfortunate date, we had mentioned this in Daily Global Insights. This is a very, very poor choice in terms of selecting the date. What does he have to tell all those firefighters, policemen who died? They knew when they were going up to rescue people stranded on the Twin Towers that they may not come back alive. It was on fire, and now this is how you respect them. It's just shocking beyond belief what that just the choice of that date was. And this is just pathetic. Now people are beginning to ask, is Biden equipped mentally to run the most powerful country in the world? God's sake, we've been saying this for months.
Yes.
Why is it that people can't understand? Why can't somebody come out with a statement? Why can't Jen Psaki come and say, yes, he is fine? Here, we went to put him through all these things. He will take questions for 1 hour, not turn his back and walk away. Sir, please go ahead, sir.
No, I think that your passionate plea is very well understood. It remains a mystery, sir. Many of the actions remain mystery. Even on daily briefings, you see the inconsistencies that are coming out. And by the way, when it's like, I don't know, I want to be, politically correct, but, when you have in the middle of these things, you have vaccine mandate and approval of the vaccines, first vaccine, Pfizer BioNTech, and then the national harmonization budget plan is thrown into the briefing. It's almost like, hey, excuse me, do you know that there is a big major threat looming and the world is talking about Afghanistan and this is a global issue, and you're coming and talking about approving Pfizer BioNTech and then this budget plan of 3.5 trillion. Something doesn't add up in terms of his own prioritization within his mind and the context with which he's raising these things when the issue is far more deeper and fundamental.
Yes, indeed. And now we are also hearing that there are shooting incidents happening in and around the Kabul airport. And the United States troops are starting to rescue stranded Americans from outside the airport, according to Pentagon. Several thousand Americans evacuated, but we still do not know how many are still stranded. By some measure, they are saying 37,000 people have been rescued thus far. And as Sridharji said, they are mostly Afghans under the SIV. Sir, what is SIV?
Special immigrant visa.
And Afghan say people are killed at the airport, says Canadian military. Just give me 1 second, I lost track here. Afghan guard killed at the airport, says German military. Canadian special forces operating outside Kabul airport are going to be evacuating people. Taliban praises the role of China in Afghanistan. There you go. There is if you go and look back a few days ago, I think maybe even a few weeks ago, the Assistant Secretary of State goes visiting to China, and there is a lot of hot words exchange, which not much has been talked about in the friendly media of CNN and whatever else. And then the next day, the number 2 of Taliban goes to China, and his pictures are taken exactly with him standing in the spot where the Assistant Secretary of State stood the previous day. What is China saying? China is saying that here we are recognizing Taliban. They may not have said so in an official release, but that is how I understand it. Sir, looks like China and Russia have already recognized Taliban regime.
I'm not sure about Russia as yet, but China has struck a deal. Is the first one which says they're recognizing the Taliban regime. They have also got a partnership going. My view is that they're going to give them some money and protection at the United Nations Security Council as a reciprocal gesture. There would be access provided to them. I don't know whether Taliban is smart enough. They're too smart enough to give everything away, but they will make China earn every penny. And there's nothing. Look at if China has to take on Taliban in Afghanistan, they know what is the stuff that they need to confront with by being on ground, besides terrain and other stuff. So I think that China has recognized. Russia said it will wait and see. I think same thing with Turkey. Turkey has told Russia, be considerate and be open-minded in recognizing Taliban, the government in Afghanistan. That is what they have indicated. Let's wait and see what how these things pan out. I think it's still an open question, and the day one of the Taliban regime taking over has not arrived. Mr. Baradar has just landed, and he is to announce the government, and he's to also announce that the formation of Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. So we have to wait and see how this unfolds.
And anti-Taliban forces kill Taliban and seize territory with a potential civil war looming. This is in the area called Panjshir Valley. And this was talked to at length yesterday in my hangout with Ask Abhijit at 9 p.m. IST yesterday. So those of you who want to know more can look at the first 15 minutes or so where Abhijit Iyer Mitra laid out the terrain, showed where the thing is, how that, that there are some limitations as to how far this the resistance can go, and so on and so forth. Now let us look at what the global leaders are saying. The United Kingdom Prime Minister Johnson is going to push Biden to extend the deadline. French president says to Biden, it's a moral obligation for the West to rescue Afghan allies. There is going to be a G7 virtual meeting. I think it is going to start today. I don't know exactly what time. Japan to send self-defense forces planes to Afghanistan for evacuation. Remember, we mentioned this yesterday about how a friendly nation helped evacuate, I think, 12 Japanese embassy staff out of harm's way. And we have to wait and see. It looks like now Japan is trying to send its own to try and get them out. Sridharji, how do you see this thing? Suddenly, all the European leaders have found their voice.
The meeting is going on right now as we speak, and I think it's likely to conclude shortly because of overlapping with the European zone. So let's wait and see. I just don't know whether there is anything to negotiate the way the deal was finalized. Whether they would extend beyond August 31st looks very highly unlikely. Some of the army commentators are saying unless you give a specific mandate to the army, you can extend. An army is saying they don't have the capability on ground should it get into a confrontation beyond August 31st. How they're going to do that? Yes, I think everybody needs to be rescued. Can everybody be rescued? Again, couple of sessions ago, I think the Sunday session, we talked about the rate at which number of people can be done and potentially, how many people are there. How many people are there? Again, from a United States point of view, the State Department and Defense Department says it has no database or record to say these are the so many people. They have left it to the people to self-report in terms of where they are. And, you can imagine if that is the case, what is the challenge that it poses?
There's also another challenge that if you're caught by some Taliban security, if you happen to have a US passport, they are snatching it away. You are confronted by 10 armed people with AK-47s and whatnot. What choice do you have if they ask you produce your passport? So this is just not on. Spectacular mess. That's all I can tell. And my heart goes out to fellow Americans who are stuck there. Not just to fellow Americans, but to all the people who want to leave Afghanistan. They need to allow them to leave. There is nothing to be gained because the world is looking at them. Taliban, you may have a lot of good things about yourself. You may feel good that you won this thing, but I don't know what you're going to gain by doing all these things. Please let those who want to leave, leave. In other global news, Bennett Naftali to tell Biden that Iran enrichment makes the nuclear deal irrelevant. Sir, a little bit more context on this.
What he is saying is that now Iran is pumping oil. The enrichment is well past the threshold limits. They've crossed the 70%. Some people think they're, few weeks away from a nuclear weapon. They've crossed the 90% threshold. Then he's asking, what is there to sit down and negotiate with Iran? There's nothing to negotiate because they have achieved the objective. And why are you restraining Israel to be compliant and part of this deal? What are you trying to accomplish? It's irrelevant. Give us the freedom and the choice to act the way that we think we fit. We need to protect ourselves. I think that's going to be a direct message from Naftali Bennett to Mr. Biden. Whether Mr. Biden will be receptive to that remains a question mark. All his attention seems to be obsessed with China without any on-ground actions. Somehow he has given up on rest of the world.
And Israel has cause to be concerned because from drones to missiles to armored vehicles, Israeli weapons were in use in Afghanistan. Iran resumes fuel exports to Afghanistan. This is a very important point. You should remember that Iran is Shia majority, Afghanistan is not. The fact that Iran now wants to send fuel to Afghanistan means that some rapprochement has taken place. Suga, the Prime Minister of Japan, is going to seek re-election despite growing calls for a new party face. Nobody has in the near past been able to match what Shinzo Abe had done. We pray for his recovery. He still looks like he's still not healthy enough to come back. So we have to wait and see how this leadership battle plays out in Japan. ASEAN on guard for extremism inspired by Taliban, Afghan triumph. Because every country, starting from perhaps Pakistan, India, Nepal, the Southeast Asian countries, everybody's now feeling like, am I going to see something in my own backyard? So, Sridharji, how do you see all this?
Well, I think we have summarized it very well, which is this Iran oil exchange with Afghanistan is very interesting. And this is again goes back to the Naftali Bennett context, which is namely, they may be saying, we'll give you the oil, but give us part of the armored vehicles, part of the drones, part of this, because that's of use to us in our battle against Israel. So they may be I mean, this is only speculative for them to be doing this deal, and oil is beginning to flow right now into Afghanistan. With regard to the global, I think that is very clear because it can very quickly spread into that region. And if people are not prepared, then, because the refugees are beginning to flow into many of these countries. For example, Malaysia is one country they may go. Indonesia is another country that they may go. Parts of Philippines and Thailand, etc. So there's very, very, Myanmar is another place, that they can potentially, and Cambodia. So there's concern on the security front. So basically, because of the influx of the refugees coming through various mechanisms. How do I see it? Well, to the fact that even Bangladesh and Nepal and Bhutan have asked some of their people to be airlifted. They've asked India to help them to airlift. They did not go to China, but they came to Sri Lanka. And Nepal and Bangladesh have requested their people to be airlifted and rescued. So I think in a nutshell, we have a problem, we have a security issue, and how the world will deal with this remains a big question mark. And we still don't know what the day one when when the new regime or the Taliban regime takes over remains the biggest question. And we don't have answers to several questions that we are asking here as well.
And before we go on to US news, a bit of unasked for advice to the Minister of External Affairs, Mr. Jaishankar. Please extract in exchange for all these favors you're doing from the Nepals and Bangladeshis that they will support India when India calls and says, we need your support. Don't just be a goody guy. That time has gone. Please, here is a time. Yes, you want to help them, do help them, but with provisos and conditions that they have to do what India wants them to do. This is not anymore something like everybody understands and, the world is a small place like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Yes, I am a believer in that too, but not now. At this point, you have to follow what Krishna says, that you have to fight adharma with adharma. Sir, next point to US news. FDA is fully approves Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 shot, paving the way for mandates. Biden says more employers should mandate COVID-19 vaccination. Dr. Gottlieb says the Delta-fueled COVID spike has peaked. I think they shot themselves in their foot. I don't know how many times I have to say this thing because my blood just boils when I see that you just unnecessarily open the borders without even checking for the people to whether they had COVID or not. DeSantis and Abbott, the two governors in the South, mask rules say that the mask rules are in line with global standards and norms. So again, this is completely partisan, but lives are at stake. Sridharji, what do we have to make of this? Do we believe that if you are in California, you have to go around in public with masks on, but once you go to Florida, you can take them off? Is that what we are hearing, sir?
I think, the implementation of any of these mandates is totally reliant on the states. Now that, for example, in the case of the vaccine, they're formally approved by Pfizer BioNTech vaccine as a vaccine. Now it has been formally approved as a medication, which means that the consequences of anything that's going wrong, Pfizer becomes accountable. So therefore, there's extra caution. There's also that means that the medication has received a level of maturation that it is admissible as a universal medication for treatment of this COVID or preventing COVID spread. So I think that that's one thing that basically paves the way for what they are now contemplating next, which is why they rushed and got this done, is the September 20th Pfizer BioNTech booster dose. They have already people with immunity deficiencies and those who have immunity suppressant capabilities. They are being now going to be the first in the queue when to do the booster dose. With regard to your masks question, they have not yet nationally mandated, but what's happening is that the states are mandating, like, for example, the Florida and Texas and some of the red states, they're saying we look at the global data, and it is especially schools and children you should not be doing because there's a natural, but also I'm told that it creates other types of trauma and psychological problems. On the contrary, Biden is saying, no, you got to go ahead and basically make it happen. So what is going to happen? As you rightly said, asymmetric implementation, people wearing masks, people not wearing masks. How exactly we're going to measure this and make this happen remains a big mystery.
And the White House begs Democrats to back spending bills, says it cannot afford to lose. And the Biden administration is providing a silent amnesty, silently dismissing thousands of deportation cases. This is very, very concerning. Sridharji, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I don't know what I can say, which is, firstly, you get rid of ICE. Secondly, you get rid of, the other kind of enforcement norms. Third, you are basically rushing them into various cities and states and so on. And then now you are saying that the local guys from the Department of Homeland Security have the discretion to grant asylum at their will. There is no mechanism to question. So I'm not sure how we can. This looks like one of the most irrational and unreal or surreal regimes that we have running the country in the United States. We're just an absolute laughingstock around the world in terms of we're governing on any matter for that matter. Right now, when we look at it, we are borrowing the hell out. We are wrongly prioritizing. Our pullout looks, very actually immature, childish, and impetuous. Then we have flooding from border and no testing. So you asked the question, Maxine. Well, if you're an illegal immigrant, you don't need to be tested. You don't need to do PCRs. You are coming in, okay? You don't need to wear masks. By the way, you also don't need to earn money. We'll also give you aid and assistance. Whereas if you're a US taxpayer, you have to wear a mask. You have to be vaccinated. To go to a restaurant, you have to show your card that you are vaccinated. And by the way, you have to pay taxes so we can fund all this. Can you reconcile these two extremities? I can't.
And Antifa Proud Boys clash on Portland Street with explosives and weapons. We've been telling this again and again, that there are many parts of many cities in the United States who, despite having a sympathetic government at the center, at the federal level, are continuing to do what they've been doing. So these are eternally they have become lawless, and even the police can't go to some of these places, Portland and some other cities. We don't know when this is going to stop. Landlords returned to Supreme Court over eviction moratorium. We've talked about this. Sridharji, what is the latest on the eviction moratorium?
I think they've gone to the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court is now going to take up the issue and will soon know what the outcome is.
And let's move on to India news. We are running a little slow, but we're going to try and pick up pace here. Indian government eyes over 45,000 crores from monetization of power transmission assets by fiscal year 25. Coal mining assets worth rupees 28,487 crores to be monetized. FDI investment, that is foreign direct investments, rise to US $12.1 billion in May. That's all good news, sir. And India looks like it is back on its feet, or at least trying to come back and regain the growth, that momentum that it lost when the second wave hit.
I think that would be a good summary. There are essentially three elements here. One, the first element is that to fund very large amount of social capital, social welfare programs, like 800 million people being fed, lots of aid being granted, industry being supported with PLI type of programs, the new sectors like MSME and infrastructure and the textile sector, etc. To encourage all of these things, you need capital. So therefore, you're not going to borrow. What they're doing is they're using this monetization program. Monetization is the sale of the assets, and they're taking that capital and redeploying for these purposes from an economic growth point of view. Now, in terms of the FDI, $12 billion. Last year we hit India hit $91 billion, $91 billion. That means average run rate of about $8 billion per month in FDI. So the story here is that the fact that they've hit $12 billion in May is a good indication that they would probably sustain a similar number this year, reinforcing the confidence that India is still nascent and is all set to grow at a substantive level to achieve whether it's 5 trillion or 10 trillion, depending on who you talk to in terms of its economic growth. So that's the overall headline and summary. There are all these political issues and other stuff that goes on that I think, Sriji, that you cover very well with various competent experts through the shows that happen through the course of the day and the course of the week, sir.
An Indian government to call an all-party leaders meeting on Thursday, and the Minister of External Affairs will be briefing the floor leaders on the developments. And this is precisely why we need CAA. Dr. Hardeep Puri points to the state of Hindus and Sikhs. Remember yesterday we showed you the 3 Guru Granth Sahib books, the holy book that the Sikhs swear by. These were brought from 3 different Gurudwaras in Afghanistan, where they were in place. When they move, it essentially means that the Sikhs of those 3 areas are leaving Afghanistan for good. Very, very regrettable. Many people don't seem to understand the significance when you take, this is exactly like in Hindu temples, when you take the main idol, the main murti out of the temple, then the temple ceases to exist. So this is a huge blow for those who are, going to the Gurudwara, and I don't know how this is going to play out. It's very, very sad. An Air India employee also rescued from Afghanistan praises Indian government, and on the contrary, the guy who pleaded with Modi to rescue from Afghanistan praises Taliban on landing. So you will have these thoughtless remarks. So we have to just take it with with a pinch of salt and just move on. U.S. Congressman Steve Chabot praises India in its rescue efforts while criticizing Pakistan's ISI on aiding Taliban. Sir, a little bit more context on this.
I think that basically what he's saying is that we have spent so much of money, we have trusted these people, they have not delivered, and they probably are helping and supporting when we need them most to be working with us, having supported the nation of Pakistan, right? So that's one element of it. The second, there has not been much, on-ground efforts in terms of infrastructure capital. There's been a lot of criticism of India that, hey, you put 2 billion, you shouldn't have put 2 billion. You put 4 billion, you shouldn't have put 4 billion. You constructed the parliament, you constructed the dam, you constructed this, that, and so on. Now Taliban comes in, and Taliban is going to, there's also sarcastic remarks that Taliban is going to sit and do its government, run its government from an Indian constructed parliament. India is doing, or any nation is doing, for the welfare and the benefit of the people. It doesn't choose that you have to appoint or you have to select, terrorists and other types of people to be running your government. So therefore, I think people get very short-sighted and get very emotive. But at the end of the day, they are the neighbors of India. It's a lot of challenges emerge out of Afghanistan if it is not stable. So I think that my view is that Chabot and others are appreciating India's efforts, and India was constantly called to contribute, including by the Afghan government, and they said they will not engage in this military stuff, but they will do anything that helps in the civil infrastructure. I think that is what Mr. Chabot is talking about.
And India reaches 588 million vaccine doses with 6.334 million doses a day. And the active cases have reduced to 333,924, with the new cases at 25,072 and discharged cases at 44,157. Now let's take a quick look at markets. The Wall Street is telling investors to prepare for Congress passing the two big spending bills. The Dow climbs 250 points plus points on Pfizer vaccine mandate. Ending benefits had little impact on jobs, but may hurt economies, finds the study. And Yellen endorses Jeremy Powell, for a second term and praises his efforts. Sridharji, take it away, and we are going to put up the market slide for your perusal, sir. It's up now.
Great. I think based on the Pfizer mandate, which means that people are going to be vaccinated, the possibility of economy returning is that's very evident in terms of the growth that we are seeing and the inflation that is seeing. So the market gave a thumbs up, 215 points up on the Dow. S&P is up 37 points. The target for this year is about 4,700. We're almost close to 4,500 or 4,470. NASDAQ, the tech sector is the safety valve when we call was the risk off trades. When you have risk off trades, capital flows to the tech sector. They are up by 227. The good news is that notwithstanding the fact the futures was up 6%, the oil prices, that is the Brent and the crude, is toggling between 65 and 68, which is for people like us is very good because our gas, we pay little lower price at the gas tank.
And the next news is about the US 10-year and the bond value. So please go ahead.
So what is amazing is, I should say, I correct myself, it's not, at the gas stations when we fill up our, fuel tanks. US 10-year bond is 1.255%, and that just basically says that the rates have been, this is the amazing thing that, one of the days we will put the rate curve. It went from 0.43, but all the way to 0.6, 1.68, 1.73. We were expecting 2%. And then the rates has come down. So we have seen a rate inversion in the 10-year bond, on the US 10-year bond yields. That's again a very sustainable, that's a very good news because the cost of borrowing is relatively less. The Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is in the crypto, they've passed the 2 trillion. They continue to toggle around the 50,000. Remember, they were around 27, 29,000. And we had said that the markets will kind of regain momentum, and they have. We will also next, in the next couple of days, put up the Coinex, which is the chart for the Coinbase exchange. You will see that is also regaining momentum, reflecting that market is slowly absorbing this currency. With that, we wrap up, sir.
Yes, we do. And viewers, in about 90 minutes, we will be back live with Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who will be giving his perspective on what is playing out in Afghanistan. So far, we have done a 360-degree look at this. We have had experts, Sridharji and I, of course, are Americans. We are providing you the American perspective. We've had a Hong Kong activist give his viewpoint on how he saw this whole thing play out. We also have Indian geostrategic experts like Ask Abhijit program. Abhijit Iyer Mitra was telling how he saw it, but from a very security point of view. And today we are going to be hearing from Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who is an ace, a veteran. He is a 6-time parliamentarian, and he will give his perspective on how he sees things. He sees things evolve in Afghanistan and what are the implications for the neighbors. Thanks, and hopefully we'll be there. You will be there to watch that program. It's going to be a sizzler of a session. The last time we had one on Tamil Nadu temples last week, it was a blowout success. We hope that you will support us in the same way that you did and have been doing. Please always remember, keep in mind that as soon as this program starts airing, do click on the like button, and if you have not already subscribed, do click on the bell button. I hope you liked our new user interface. We've got all the icons, suggestive icons, to tell you that if you're forgotten, that we've given you the like button, we have given you the comment button, we've also given you they are descriptive. You can't click on that to actually initiate it. You have to do it on your YouTube screen. But the point here is to gently remind you that if you have not done that, please do so right away. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And, we'll bring more exciting news to you tomorrow. Positive news.